Welcome into Red's Reality Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Razauskas, bringing you reality as I see it on all things your Cincinnati Reds and how sweet it is as the Reds finish off the victory in the final two games this past Saturday and yesterday on Sunday to sweep our cross-state rivals, the Cleveland Indians, and take the early commanding lead in the Ohio Cup. Now we just need one of the series games hosted in Cleveland's Progressive Field in order for us to capture the Ohio Cup. I believe this was the first time in 13 years. Yes, just double check my liner notes, my bullet points, if you will. This was the first time in 13 years that the Reds had defeated the Cleveland Gaurdians. So this was awesome. And how it all went down was a couple of different ways. This one's at the bottom simply because I already had mentioned the bullpen and the last scene build. And a little trick of the trade, if you guys and gals and non-binary pals out there don't know how scene building works, you just build one main scene and then you change the elements within the scene when you host the podcast. That keeps you from having to rebuild them every time. So the reason I bring that up is even though this one features on the bottom, it is the first subject that we're going to talk about here today. It's simply on the bottom because it was already the final first word of the final topic from the last episode on Friday, and that is the bullpen. And this time, the bullpen had big balls. Now, what exactly do I mean by that? Well, first of all, not trying to be vulgar in any way, that is a direct quote about Emilio Pagan from manager Tito Terry Francona that I've just borrowed for the entire bullpen because it fits rather well. What happened on Saturday was Saturday night was planned to be Chase Petty. And then the Reds looked at the state of their bullpen and they were like, you know what? Our bullpen has had a couple of good days off. Guys haven't been overused. And Petty has really struggled in his first two appearances here in the big leagues. So what we should do is we should have Brett Suter be an opener, and then Chase Petty is going to pitch the bulk of the game. Well, what actually happened is as the game flowed, Brett Suter was really on point, probably the best I've ever seen him in his entire big league career, counting Reds uniforms, Brewers uniforms, and all of his other uniforms, which are escaping me at the moment. I think it was one other. I think it was Colorado. Was he in Colorado with Nick Martinez? Can't really remember, but I know it's been at least one other. But anyway, the point is, this is the best I've ever seen Brett Suter look, and everyone on the Locked On Reds Discord, our sister podcast friends over at Locked On Reds, their Discord was saying the same thing. Brett Suter's never looked this good. He pitched 3 really strong innings. And then on top of that, he made a tremendous defensive play where he basically took the ball away from behind his back to start turning a double play after catching the ball on the fly. So it was just a great day from Brett Suter. And then because Brett Suter gave 3 strong innings, what then happened was that Terry Francona, Tito, and the rest of the Red staff, they looked at the game situation and they're like, okay, well, now it kind of makes sense to bring in Lyon Richardson, who's had bullpen experience, unlike Chase Petty, but Lyon Richardson can still give us 2 good innings. So that's what he did. He pitched a really good 4th and 5th inning. And then once he's able to do that, you pretty much have the back end of your bullpen all lined up in a row. The only question was the sixth inning. And for that sixth inning, they went with Taylor Rogers, a guy who I mentioned last episode hasn't exactly been maybe who the Reds thought they were going to get in him, but a guy nonetheless who has pitched fairly well, all things considered, and he had his best outing as a Red so far, bar none, going 1-2-3 in the sixth inning. And then, as I say, the back of the bullpen was perfectly aligned as you had in order Graham Ashcraft with a 1-2-3 9-pitch inning, seventh inning. Then you had Tony Santillan, and then you had Emilio Pagan, who was able to lock down the save and give the Reds a 4-1 victory. Then the following day, this term can continue as Tony Santillan and Emilio Pagan worked on a third straight day to gain the Reds a 3-1 victory over the Gaurdians. So they really locked things down, and the bullpen really showed that it can rise to the occasion and step up when the team needs it. And overall in that game from yesterday, Andrew Abbott looked okay, but he didn't look fantastic. He didn't have his best stuff. And as we talked about before with Abbott, what happens with Abbott sometimes is that Abbott will have games where he is not finishing his pitches, and by that I mean his left throwing shoulder is kind of flying open, and that's what happened in this game because he had that issue going on, and so he literally battled through five. But the other reason he battled through five, that I do want to make this abundantly clear, the other reason he battled through 5 innings was because I screwed up the word abundantly and the word battled, and I came up with the word bundled. Apologies there, but the reason it was a battle through 5 innings for Andrew is because the Reds pitching staff yesterday, as well as the Guardians pitching staff yesterday, were both the victim of an incredibly wide strike zone from the home plate umpire, whose name I could not find. So if anyone knows his name, please let me know in the comment section down below or on social media at Reds Reality Pod or over on the Locked On Reds Discord in the Creations Corner section that this show is discussed in, and just let me know if you know the plate umpire's name from yesterday. But yeah, he had an incredibly wide strike zone, and as such, a lot of pitches that were strikes were not getting called, and then he had to sort of expand his zone while not being the most effective to get the calls that were getting called. So all in all, it led to the Guardians hitters also trying to adjust to this wide zone, and a lot of pitches were thrown in that first inning for first 5 innings, for Andrew Abbott. So the bullpen was forced to pick up the pieces for him as well, and they did. And it was a 3-1 final. Santillan and Pagan are completely off the table today as we begin the series in Pittsburgh against the Pirates tonight at 6:40 p.m. Eastern Time. So Tito mentioned it yesterday. with the bullpen having these tremendous balls throughout the Cleveland series, it puts us kind of in a precarious position because now we have to watch where our bullpen is and what's actually going to go down for these next two games. I wouldn't be surprised. It isn't happening at the time of this recording, but I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't announced before 6:40 tonight that we see a couple of roster moves and some fluctuation within the bullpen just to get some fresh arms up here. But as I mentioned, the title of How Sweep It is also complemented once again by Will Benson, as Benson goes, as the show notes would tell you, with another home run, his fourth straight game with a home run. 4 in a row, a new career high for Benson. He is looking like he's trying to chase down Joey Votto with that 7 straight Reds record and maybe even challenge overall for the consecutive games National League record. You do see the new swing in the thumbnail for today. And of course, if you're a Reds fan, you probably have seen it in actual broadcast. That is the Eric Davis swing. As I've mentioned in previous episodes, Eric Davis was working extremely close with Will Benson and trying to help him become a more effective hitter. And what he did was he basically taught Will Benson his own swing. And that swing is you've got to hold the hands lower and you've got to hold the bat closer to your body. And it's particularly poignant with Will Benson because Will Benson is an extremely tall human being, for those of you that aren't aware of that, because sometimes it's hard on TV to tell how tall a guy is, but Will Benson's fairly tall. So the taller your batting stance is, like imagine your batting stance is up here, right? If your batting stance is up here, but you're up here, what that means is you got to bring your hands down, right, to get to the ball, as opposed to your hands already starting here where they should be to begin with. And so that's what Will Benson has worked on with Eric Davis, and that's what he has accomplished by taking on Davis's swing. And I'm telling you what, I have never seen anyone more locked in than Will Benson is right now. It has been so much fun to watch, and I just smile so much when I think about my friend, the co-host of the Locked On Reds podcast, Jeff Carr, and how much he's always been a staunch supporter and big fan of Willie Beeman Benson. So he has got to be over the moon thrilled. And if you don't know where Beeman comes from, that's what Larkin calls him. And I think it's a very fitting name because he is always beaming. He's smiling from ear to ear, and he's one of the most likable guys in the Reds team, on the Reds team and in the Reds locker room, is what I was trying to say right now. There's just no more of a guy you want to root for at all than Will Benson. And this success is great to see. Some other guys who really had good series, as we mentioned, Matt McLain hitting better, TJ Friedel's come back, Spencer Steer had a couple of great swings, including a home run. All of the offense really came on really strong in these last 3 games, and now we sit back at an even 500 on the year. Just as many wins as we have losses. And now we just have to keep right on rolling. And we're playing the Pirates, so on paper, we should be able to do that. And I don't believe, according to my notes anyway, that we are due to face Paul Skeens in this series, which can only help. So, extremely excited. You know, we were just here a couple of days ago talking about all the things that were wrong with the team and all the things the team needed to do to put itself back on the right track, and they did it in this Cleveland series. So extremely excited going forward. I hope you are as well. Chime in the comment section down below, or hit me up at Reds Reality Pod on Blue Sky and or Twitter/X. As I mentioned, the Creations Corner section of the Locked On Reds Discord, our sister podcast. Eventually, because some of you did ask me, eventually this show will have its own Discord as well. But right now, I don't feel like we're big enough. We're just a small podcast that could. So I don't want to put myself into my own server until we get really, really established as a podcast and I get some other things put together. So that's why we're relying on our good friends over at Locked On Reds for help there. And I really do appreciate them allowing me as an admin to also have this show promoted over on that platform. So yeah, chime in wherever you want and let me know what you think about where the team is. And of course, if this was your first time here, you can always please check out the latest episode and the episode that YouTube itself recommends the most to you. And on your screen here in a moment as well, you will, of course, find that subscribe circle that you can hit. And you can hit that, and that will keep you locked right here on into Red's Reality Podcast, where you won't miss any future episodes. And remember that I, Josh Razauskas, will continue to bring you reality as I see it on all things your Cincinnati Reds.